Hello ladies and gentlemen, Teo here, back with some more DSD. We are currently going to school. It's gonna be great. We're gonna learn all sorts of things. Or something to that effect. It took until morning for me to regain consciousness.
まあよ、そういつまでも自己嫌悪してないで。ヒーローが色仕掛けに弱いのはお約束じゃねえの。
Ever since we left the club to investigate the school premises, Shido had been unable to shut his mouth about this.
だから色仕掛けなんか食らってないって言ってるだろ
う。じゃあ何食らったわけ？
それは
言えないような手なら色仕掛けみたいなもんだろ。
He let out a cackle and patted me on the shoulder. Well, I guess he was right in a sense. I wouldn't exactly call that seduction, but the logic was the same. God, I wish he would stop talking about it already.
そんで？あのバカメスどもはここに行ったんか？
多分な。
We stood in front of the gates of Tsukino-sawa High. I couldn't think of any other places where Kasumi and Sakurai could have chosen to go together. Can't believe she kidnapped Kasumi of all people. My chest was awhirl with a tempest of anger, frustration, and guilt. But now was not the time to wallow in emotions. If Kasumi was here, all I had to do was concentrate on saving her, and taking any enemies out that might stand in my way. Beyond these gates, I would likely be met with a full-blown battlefield.
Okay. じゃあ行こうか。
As the two came back in the morning and learned of the situation, they actually used rock, paper, scissors to decide who'd accompany me on the search for Kasumi. Apparently they had some pressing business to take care of that required at least one of them. And so, Shido won and tagged along with me. I'd say he was the better option, but that'd be a lie. They were both the same, really.
Huh? どうした？何見てんだよ。
I mean, I don't know, Ellie doesn't have the magical superpower of not dying. It's a fairly convenient superpower when, like, you're a human and you're fighting against Nazi wizards. It was just, well, why was he wearing that?
制服もう持ってないのか？
いや、あるにはあるけど。
じゃあそんなステージ衣装みたいな格好してんなよ。目立ちすぎだろ。
これは俺のユニフォームなんだよ。かっけえだろ。
かっけえっつうか。ああ、もういい。
The conversation was giving me a headache, so I looked away from Shido. It was hard to tell if he was full of spite or just relied on his carefree attitude to dispel the tension, but no amount of playfulness would help us past this point.
お前、本当にいいんだな。
しつけえな。今さらなんだよ。芋なんか引かねえって。
そうかよ。
Well, okay, if that was what he wanted, then so be it. I had just one pair of arms right here. My job was to fight. Only I could take Sakurai or Rusalka on, so there was only one thing Shido could do.
霞の救出はお前がやれよ。
わかってるって。余計な邪魔が入ってなきゃそうしてやるよ。
I really wish that was the case. We'd have a pretty bad problem if it wasn't. I took a deep breath.
行くぞ。
We then passed through the gates. At that moment... I didn't even know how to describe it. I felt as if we passed through a warm membrane of some sort. I felt my body instantly grow heavier and had trouble breathing. What the hell was going on in here? I shook my head, hoping to rid myself of this sudden wave of lightheadedness, as Shido addressed me from behind.
おい、レン。あれ見ろよ。
I turned around to see... the giant disk of a full moon hanging in the sky. Its ominous reddish light pierced through my skin like needles. I shuddered from the cold, feeling inexplicable exhaustion take a hold of my body. More importantly... Shido dangled his left wrist in front of my eyes. The watch on it said 8:30 a.m.
今日は満月の日じゃねえんだけどな。ここは夜で月が丸い。多分何時でも。待てよ。
Shido grasped my hand as I tried to take a step back outside through the gates.
やめとけ。わかんないけど、出て戻れなかったらどうすんだよ。
He was right. No matter how you look at it, there was something wrong with this place. It probably wouldn't let me leave, and even if it did, not being able to come back in would be even worse.
外側からじゃ何も変わってなかったのにな。
The world changed the moment we took a step through the gates. A dark night enveloped us in the middle of an early morning.
心当たりあるか？
None. I never knew it was even possible to cause something like this. If I had to liken it to something, then it seemed kind of equivalent to the beach that Mary dwelled in suddenly manifesting in the real world. How could one even do such a thing? Nothing made sense to me in here. So that might be foreshadowing. We might be making a beach at some point later in the story.
悪い。役立たずだ。
そうか。 けどまあ悲観すんな。
Shido gave me a smile as he patted me on the back. I couldn't see the usual carefreeness in the curl of his lips, but just managing to force a confident face in a place like this was already quite an achievement as far as I was concerned. He had balls, that was for sure.
お前は平気か？
ああ、俺は大丈夫。
This inexplicable exhaustion was a bit of a problem though. I had no idea what was going on, but I felt dizzy and short of breath, as if I'd suddenly been brought to the summit of a large mountain or something. Both my hands and feet had grown numb. I wasn't even sure if I could form a proper fist.
とりあえずだな。あまり息すんな。あと切れるな。心拍数も上げるな。
And Shido is almost like disturbingly competent.
むちゃくちゃ言うな、お前。
無茶なとこ来たんだから無茶しねえとダメだろうがよ。
まあ、そりゃあな。
I obeyed his calm voice. I didn't know if his suggestions would be of any use, but it at least made me calm down a little. They said that a positive attitude was the best medicine, after all.
行くぞ。
おうよ。
And so, we stepped into the shroud of darkness waiting for us beyond the door. I was prepared for battle. I couldn't say I got used to either killing others or risking my own life, but I could at least face it as an inescapable fact. Still, the situation seemed far worse than I had ever imagined. I had a very bad feeling about this, Kasumi. I felt as if there were more dread and despair waiting for me beyond those doors than anything I'd lived through till this point.
さて、こりゃどこ行っても同じだな。おい。
We explored the school, thoroughly investigating each room from the first floor to the fourth. Is it just me, or does the background music right now, like, totally not match the scene? The place remained shrouded in darkness, without a single ray of light finding its way inside. I felt just as exhausted as before, with my strength slowly seeping out of my body, as if being siphoned out by some invisible power. Still, there was one thing we luckily managed to discover.
とりあえず、さっきのは礼言っとく。
ん？ああ、俺のここはちょっといろいろあれだからな。
He pointed at his nose and made a wry smile. If he hadn't told me to breathe through my mouth, I might have already been done for by this point. The black, jelly-like things slithering around were remnants of blood and flesh that seemed to have been rotting here for hundreds of years. Even though I'd begun breathing through my mouth, their disgusting smell was turning my brain to mush. I probably would have gone insane the moment I took a lungful of this rotten air through my nose.
これあれか。ブラムストーカーのあれっぽいわな。わかるだろ？
Bram Stoker's, Dracula? Shido didn't exactly spell it out, but he already had an idea about who was responsible for this. Let me double check that real quick. Bram Stoker. Yeah. Author of Dracula. Just making sure I had my, I was gonna say pop culture, but I guess it doesn't really count as pop culture if it's like 100 years old or so. So just making sure I had my cultural references on point. And so did I, for that matter. Any fool would realize the nature of this place upon setting foot inside. The school had transformed into a vicious hunting ground for a beast ruled by an aggressive, insatiable lust for flesh. A demonic paradise of blood, its only spectator the full moon perched in the skies of eternal darkness. And who else would lord over a realm like this than a vampire? In other words,
ビルヘルム。
he was here. So this time, I had to be wary of not only Sakurai and Rusalka, but him as well. In fact, I had the feeling he was the most dangerous of them all.
参ったな。あの野郎。俺に目つけてやがんのかも。
He ruffled his hair.
前にちょっとおちょくったからな。いきなりマジかよ。そうなるとさすがに俺もきっついわ。あいつはこう、適度に舐めててくれた方がやりやすいんだよ。わかるだろ？
I too had nearly been killed by Wilhelm before. Prior experience had taught me that we couldn't let him get serious. But Psycho was an amalgamation of malice and raw bloodlust. Meeting him in battle meant to fight to the death with no alternatives. As such, the best way to take him on was to go at him with all you had when he was still holding back. Otherwise, he would simply crush us like flies through overwhelming superiority.
こりゃバカすみ早いとこ引っさらって逃げた方がいいんじゃね？あの女の話じゃ戦場にならないとダメなんだろ？
そうだが。
However, there was one thing I couldn't get out of my mind.
本当にここには俺たちしかいないと思うか？
ん？
そうあってほしいとは思うし、そうでなきゃ最悪だけど、最近は楽観主義ができなくなってな。
Their main objective might indeed have been to lure and fight us here. But what if we decided to ignore them? Would they just sit here for days waiting for us? I couldn't imagine them being so ludicrous.
俺が来ても来なくても、どうなろうと対処できるようにするのが普通だろ ビルヘルムはそんなこと考えなくても、ルサルカは。
I couldn't imagine such a detail escaping that sly bitch. If this place didn't become a battlefield, she'd just turn it into execution grounds.
なるほどね。でもざっと回ってみた結果、一っ子一人いなかったぜ。
ここが普通の場所に見えるか？
いや、全然。もしかしたら忍者屋敷並みの仕掛けが働くかもしんねえし。例えば壁の中、天井裏とか地面の下とか、侵入者を飲み込むことができるんだったら。
それとも、目に映る景色を実際とは違うように歪めて見せることができるとしたら。
In that case, they might as well have been hiding the 500 students of this school somewhere out of sight.
けど、確かめる方法はない。
答えがわからないなら、用だけ済ませて逃げるわけにもいかない。
おお、そりゃ参ったね。
いきなり攻撃してくる気配もないしな。
But it also made me curious, why would Wilhelm let us run free inside a place that might as well have been his belly? Was he waiting for something? If so, what? Was it a trap? Or a gunshot to signal the start of the battle?
こっちから探ったりはできねえの？
さっきからやろうとはしてるんだけどな。
Sensing another's killing intent or the impending storm after the calm was far beyond my capabilities, if that was what he wanted to know. My senses might have grown keener, but I was still no match for war-trained soldiers, one of whom I was trying to find now. However, giving up was not an option.
少し真剣にやってみる。しばらく話しかけないでくれ。
了解。じゃあ、俺は俺で試してみるか。
I didn't know what he was up to, but Shido began straining his ears. Then again, I suppose it wouldn't hurt. He did have animal-like senses after all.
先に見つけた方が飯おごりだからな。
What? That defeats the purpose of an incentive. Like, if it's a contest, then whoever finds them first should be the winner, and should then be treated by the other. That you're giving perverse incentives here. I gave him an ironic smile before closing my eyes to focus my senses. I have a degree in economics, so perverse incentives are something that get on my nerves. All animals had a sense of territory, and humans were no exception. Anyone would feel uncomfortable if someone they didn't like invaded their personal space. Just like how people preferred to sit a few seats apart in a cafeteria, or how they chose the urinals farthest away from those occupied. They would always unconsciously try to maintain distance from their kin whenever they could, and apparently it was young men who needed the most personal space. Then what about me? What constituted my usual territory? The roof? I couldn't tell if it was a good or a bad thing, but I felt quite certain of the fact that I needed more personal space than most. I mean, Kasumi had already called me antisocial, and I barely had any friends. No wonder I disliked anyone being close to me. As I closed my eyes, I could feel it with my skin. Shido standing next to me, not even a meter apart. I could sense his breathing, heartbeat, and mental state. I widened the radius further. 2 meters, 3 meters, 4 meters, 5 meters. My territory extended like a sphere, both to the left and right, up and down. I created my own pocket world inside Wilhelm's realm. His will, of course, resisted my intrusion, and my realm extended at a snail's pace at best, but I could still feel the area of my perception widen. And so...
おっと
Shido locked eyes with me once I jerked my head up.
下の階だな。
You kidding me? What was he, a bat? I was a little surprised at how genuinely sharp his senses were, but either way, I sensed the exact same thing. And besides, free food. And what was more...
先輩。
ん？
氷室先輩がいる。
マジで？
気のせいじゃない。
She was on the 3rd floor, right below us. We must have checked that room just a couple of minutes ago and found it empty. Yet I could sense her quite clearly over there right now. There was just no way I could mistake Nea Himuro for someone else. She was one of the very few people I cared about just as much as Kasumi, if not even more.
一人？
わからない。
I spotted her only because she was a regular person. I extended my senses, which weren't even that keen to begin with, to a wide area, so I doubted I could detect any of those warmongers unless they themselves wished to be found.
けど無事ではいる。と。
She seemed calm and self-possessed, her head half in the clouds as usual. In any case, it didn't feel like she was either fleeing from someone or being confined. As such, there was only one thing to do.
行くぞシロ。あの人を確保する。
Why was she here? How was she related to those maniacs? This wasn't exactly the best time for long-winded discussions, but I also couldn't just abandon her.
俺らを釣る餌ってことはないんかよ。
Yeah, I could guess that much myself. That possibility was high, and us getting into a heap of trouble even higher. But in fairness, like, you already went in that room, right? And if they were planning on ambushing you, they could just do that whenever. So, There's like very little downside, right? Like, if it's bait, the entire bloody building is bait. Nonetheless,
俺は行くぞ。誰がなんて言っても。
へいへい。俺も行ってみただけだよ。
we gave each other a nod and dashed through the corridor. I jumped down the stairs to the third floor in a single leap.
で、どこよ
I raised my hand and pointed at one of the rooms in silence,
？4組。
俺らのクラスだ。
as well as Sakurai and Rusalka's.
いやー、思い返すと濃いメンツだったよな。
He really should have minded his own business, but I couldn't deny it. The school was the closest place I had to a normal life, and also the first of my safe havens to be destroyed. Just a group of 40 or so students laughing and getting angry at each other, studying and falling in love, chatting and playing around. The kind of peaceful, boring daily life you could come across practically everywhere. I'd hoped I could live out the rest of my life surrounded by that mundane bliss. It was abruptly and cruelly taken from me. The door opened with a repulsive creak, revealing a certain girl.
藤井君
Hey, how's it going? Long time no see. Yeah, Himuro. Once our senior in school, and now a tiny ticking bomb whose position in all this I still couldn't quite discern. Depending on her answers, I might end up having to fight her as well. My thoughts gave way for sheer anxiety as I saw her, prompting me to let my guard down. No, don't do that, that's a bad idea.
No.
Sakurai. I would have been lying if I said my thoughts didn't freeze when I saw her emerge from the classroom after Himuro. If she'd attacked me right then, I would have been dead in an instant.
よー姉ちゃん。俺に何の断りもなく帰るなんてひどいじゃんよ。
Shido took a step forward with a smile as if trying to cover me while I was still dumbfounded. His voice betrayed no hint of surprise or anxiety. He likely expected there to be someone watching over Himuro.
俺はレンよりだいぶ薄情だからな。餌は食っても釣られねえぞ。で、お二人さんはここで何をしてるわけ？
ユサ君こそ何してるの？
俺はあんた見りゃわかるっしょ。修羅場にシャシャってくんのはいつものことじゃん。それで
Shido glanced at Sakurai again. It was at that point that I finally regained my composure.
悪いな、シロ。もう大丈夫だ。
I took a step forward, allowing Shido to step back instead. With Sakurai around, it was a bad idea to let him stand in the front unprotected.
先輩は、まあ、後で話そう。とりあえず無事そうで安心しました。
藤井君も
ええ。それで桜井。
The emotions I'd been suppressing up until now erupted all at once, filling my eyes with rage. Not even my consideration for Himuro could stop me from staring daggers at Sakurai. To tell the truth, my blood had been boiling since last night. I was frustrated with my own naivety, my own stupidity, as well as the woman who dared kidnap Kasumi from right under my nose.
あいつはどこだ、桜井。答えないと。
Kill you right here and now. I might have grown to know her better during these past few days, but my anger at that moment far outweighed any sympathy I might have built for her. I ignored Himuno's bemused stare. Shido must have said something as well, but I paid no attention to it. My gaze remained fixated on Sakurai, and her alone. Depending on her answer, I could have very well attacked her right then and there. As such,
綾瀬さんなら知らない。
that anticlimactic answer of hers felt like a rush of cold water over me.
知らない。だと。
ええ、聞かれても答えられない。
She didn't appear to be lying, which also meant that my worst fears had come to pass.
じゃあ今は他のやつのところかよ。
Honestly, if Kasumi were to be kidnapped by any of them, I wish it would have been Sakurai. At least she wasn't as dangerous as Wilhelm or Rusalka.
どうするよレン。お前はこいつを締め上げたいんだろうけど、そういう状況でもそれで肩がつくわけでもなさそうな感じだぞ。
分かってる。
She was pissing me off to no end, but our main objective here wasn't to teach her a lesson, regardless of how much I would have liked that to be the case. Either way, taking care of her wasn't a priority at the moment. My first order of business was to save Kasumi. Also,
先輩、今のここに他のやつはいないのか？
それは
her eyes widened as I seized her by the shoulders, pulling her close.
教えてくれ先輩。他の生徒はいるのかいないのか？
She looked away from me and fell silent, ignoring my question. Ah, that wasn't it. That was actually her way of answering it.
俺は
I followed her gaze outside, where I could see one silhouette after another pop up in the yard. Faces both familiar and new, both guys and girls, everyone from my year.
おいおい。
Shido was also taken aback. I couldn't blame him. It really was a bizarre sight. I could tell there were about 200 people in the yard by now. Some were dressed in uniforms, some in casual clothes, and some even pajamas. All of them seemed completely out of it.
かすみは
I couldn't. I think I looked through everyone over there, and she didn't seem to be among them. With her there or not, this certainly didn't seem like a good sign.
見ろよあれ
Shido's voice rang uncharacteristically urgent. I followed his finger with my gaze to see a giant frame looming in the center of the yard, with students surrounding it. A genuine monster if I had ever seen one. Hey Kane, how's it going?
カイン
If that thing was here, did it mean Sister Lisa was also around?
ダメだもう遅い
Shido's voice trailed off. Sakurai looked away, while Himuro simply shivered in my grasp. I merely gazed at the spectacle before me, completely dumbfounded. There was simply nothing I could do from here. Rip those guys. Kane swung the giant lump of metal in his hands. Much like in the club, it erupted in purple lightning, swallowing 100 or so students in the blink of an eye, leaving nothing but bloody smoke and burnt flesh in their place. Himuro wrapped her hands around my back and pressed against me to block my vision, as if thinking she could escape this nightmare by merely refusing to acknowledge its existence. But it was too late. Her frame was much too small to cover my eyes. Some of the pieces of meat and entrails of what used to be my schoolmates were flung so hard they reached up to the 3rd floor, splattering against the window in front of us. I could make out a severed hand and a piece of leg stuck against the window frame. That red mush was probably the remnants of someone's heart, and the thing that looked like a blown-up balloon must have been a lung. I even spotted a jaw, an eyeball, a torn-off scalp with hair still clinging to it, as well as half a face, all destroyed beyond recognition. They all gave me condemning looks. Why didn't you come here earlier? Why was a bastard like you in our school anyway? If you'd never been around, I know we would never have ended up like this. I could practically hear my mind crumble. My whole world was falling apart. My day-to-day life, a place for me to return to. Why did a prideful fool like me ever delude himself into thinking he could protect them? Sheer frustration made my tears flow, and I was unable to stop them. I barely even knew the faces of those massacred students. And that weighed the heaviest upon my soul. It felt like an insult to their memory. I shoved Himuro aside and ran my fist into the window glass. Yet I lacked the strength to even shatter something as thin as that. The window remained intact, as if mocking me for being completely powerless. As if telling me I could never save anyone. That I was just another sacrifice brought here to rot and be turned into sludge. Wait, seriously? Unless, Wilhelm's AoE nonsense, whatever thing he's doing, is, like, magically reinforcing the windows, it feels inconsistent for him not to be able to break it there. Like, a normal person can break glass with their bare hands, right? So the fact that he has super strength should mean that he, should be able to break it fairly easily. Like, with little to no effort. I let out a deafening scream from the very, very bottom of my heart, cursing the name of my mortal enemy. I'd make him pay. I'd kill him. Kane too, and the priest and Rusalka, and then Sakurai, and then that accursed sister Lisa as well.
てめえら俺とやりたいなら買ってやるつまらねえ雑魚殺してエツに行ってんじゃねえぞ腰抜け野郎いい度胸だ
The temperature around us suddenly shot 10 or so degrees down. A whole arrangement of scornful laughs, a snort, chuckle, a guffaw, and a howl, reverberated across the walls, merging into one continuous fit of maniacal laughter. And beneath it the vilest, most genuine lust for another's blood.
じゃあ本番行こうか小僧せいぜい食い出のある生きのいい餌になれや
He was about to start. Wilhelm had yet to unveil the true face of his realm. Thus far he had merely been playing around, but in this moment...
金落ちる恋人死骸を晒せ私の愛で朽ちるあなた私だけが知っているか
His voice reverberated across the night. The 3rd stage of Ewigkeit. I wasn't taught about it by anyone, but I could still feel it and comprehend its terror on my skin.
ブリアローゼンカバリエ・シュバルツバルド
An overwhelming sense of exhaustion washed over me, one more intense than anything I'd ever experienced before. I could barely breathe, let alone stand. A vampiric knight ready to drain the very life from all that dared venture into his realm. Such was the nature of Wilhelm's.
想像ださあどうするよ小僧
In response to a boost of his will, the crimson hue of the blood covering the area deepened. Cracks began to appear all over the ceiling and the walls. Even inanimate objects had their life energy drained. It was instinct alone that made me muster the last of my strength to leap with a scream. A whole swarm of stakes suddenly shot out of the gaping cracks and currently surrounding us.
Senpai!
Had I not managed to grab the confused girl and dive out of harm's way, she would have been skewered like a pig. We were inside his belly. I had long since lost count of the number of stakes that appeared, all lusting for our blood. Was it a dozen? 100? 1,000? No. They sprouted in tens of thousands, like thorns of a nightmarish rose.
動けるか
ま、なんとかな。
よし。だったら、
I had more resistance against this world than Shido or Himuro, so it was obviously me who should have fought him. But what of Kane? No, more importantly, what of Rusalka and Kasumi? Himuro shivered in my arms. In the boundless forest of bloody stakes, I could make out remnants of bones and scraps of cloth hanging from their tips. Among them, I recognized some as pieces of our school's uniform.
足りねえよ小僧。マリウスが集めたの300年。それっぽっちの劣等じゃ俺の腹は膨れねえ。ここのスしかは開かねえ。やるんだろ？買ってくれるんだろ戦争を。退屈させんなよ男。てめえの面あいつに似すぎて、そこの女どもやりたくなるぜ。
Wait, who do we resemble? Mercurius?
かすみは
In an attempt to drown out his ridiculing cackle with a roar of my own, I asked him the most important question of them all.
かすみは一体どこにいるお前がさらったのかビレヘルベ
くったらねえ濡れ衣だな。俺は殺し合いに来たんだぜ。人さらいの真似事なんぞするかよ。そういうのはマリウスの領分で探してみろよ。急がねえとえらい目に遭うぜ。
I suppressed my anger. Now wasn't the time for emotions. Kasumi was in Rusalka's clutches. I didn't have enough manpower to save her and fight those bastards off. I was up against Kane, Rusalka, and Wilhelm. I had to protect Kasumi, Himuro, and the other students. Yet all we had was me and Shido. What should we do? What could I do? I had no time to hesitate. I had to make a choice right away, but I simply couldn't come up with anything.
仕方ねえな。
Shido spoke in an indifferent voice as if he'd realized my hesitation.
下の奴らは見捨てろ。優先順位だ。
Priorities. Sakurai had been talking about it too, and she was indeed right, but
それから先輩も無視だ。別にほっといても死にゃしねえよ。なあ、そうだろ？それがお前の役目じゃねえの？
Shido turned to Sakurai, who hadn't said a word this whole time.
割り切ろうぜ、レン。こりゃもうしょうがね
I possessed no words strong enough to express the inner turmoil inside me. But Shido was right.
だな。そうするがいいぜ小僧ども。で、俺の相手はどっちだよ。
See, this is interesting because there's been like strong foreshadowing for both matchups. Because earlier, when Rusalka and Wilhelm were talking, Rusalka was like, I'll take Zarathustra, and Wilhelm was like, excellent, I get to kill that Shido asshat. It's gonna be great. But like right now, they're spending so much exposition on Wilhelm's superpower, it makes more sense for Ben to go against Wilhelm, because realistically, Shido can't kill him. Like, that was more or less established in the last fight, right? Shido has bullshit not dying powers, but he can't actually kill a Nazi wizard, whereas Ben can. So I guess it makes more sense given the amount of exposition on Wilhelm's end for, Ben, Wilhelm, and Shido Rusalka to be the matchups. But that goes sort of... It's like the opposite of what, Wilhelm and Rusalka planned earlier, right?
うるせえ
Shido and I shouted in sync.
てめえの相手は
え。俺だ。
Oh, okay.
の
Shido held his arm in front of me as if to prevent me from lunging at Wilhelm.
第2ラウンド行こうぜ、吸血鬼野郎。てめえは俺が締めてやる。つうわけで、お前はとっととバカスミ取り返してこい。もたもたすんな。
I couldn't answer him right away. If I did, I wouldn't have anything good to say. Like, can you win, or what do you plan to do? If the main goal of our fight was to get Kasumi back, then I certainly was the only one who could fight Rusalka. Well, Kane was... Damn it!
あとな、この割り振りは俺が判断したことだからよ。お前には責任とかそういうのはねえ。
Don't you go raising death flags, Shido. You're my favorite. You're not allowed to die.
まあなんつうんだ、悪い連れの口車に乗っちまったとでも思えよ。
バカ野郎。
There was no way an excuse like that would fool me, but I could tell that he was actually showing me some consideration for once. Which is why
死ぬなよ。
I turned around with those lone words. Himuro was right in front of me. I felt something that I most certainly couldn't show her start welling up in my eyes the moment I saw her face. So,
俺は先輩を信じてる。
I muttered that, then wrapped my arms around her slender figure. A familiar face, and one of my few friends. I was dumb and naive, so I had no clue what sort of position she was in or what she was thinking, but my words and actions were probably driving her further and further into a corner. At that moment, I just wanted to put my thoughts into words.
俺にとって大事な人だから、なくしたくない。俺は何も知らないしわからないけど、だからもっと話したいし、一緒にいたいと思ってる。
藤君。
これが終わったら俺たちと帰ろう。先輩はこんなところにいちゃダメだ。
私。
She stopped herself before she could say the rest, while I broke off into a dash away from the group. I could feel Wilhelm and Shido's battle beginning behind me. You guys seriously had better not die. Run away if it looks like you're gonna lose, no matter what it takes. All you've got to do is survive until I beat Rusalka and take back Kasumi. But a moment later,
気に入らない。
I thought I heard a voice.
本当に気に入らない。彼を汚すのもいい加減にしろ。
Oh, right. Kay got a look at Kane's face. And it was, what's her name? Lisa established in the fight in the pit that it would be a very bad idea to let Sakurai see Kane's face. So maybe Sakurai's gonna go fight, Rusalka and we get to fight Kane or something. I felt like I heard something, but maybe it's just my imagination. Once they could no longer see Den, Shido and Wilhelm sprung into action. Their first strikes came at the same moment, revealing the overwhelming difference between their overlapping attacks. Surging gunshots vanished, replaced by the roar of soaring stakes that tore the air asunder. The demonic weapons he launched as though for fun shot forward, putting the modern firearm they opposed to shame. Wilhelm lunged forward with a roar and a swift right hook that tore through all. It was unfocused and ruthless, a deadly talon with naught but pure power behind it. Even if Shido somehow managed to dodge the air-splitting arm, what would that accomplish in the end? His gun meant nothing. He tried it on the demon before, but the bullets couldn't even pierce his skin. He'd already shot him in the eyes, eardrums, and indirectly his tiptoes all the way to his ribs. But it did nothing. Shido's marksmanship bordered the realm of superhuman. His ability to hit bullseye with each and every one of his bullets while dodging Wilhelm's deadly fist stood testament to his deep-rooted abnormality. Like before, he couldn't actually make out his foe's attacks. Not to mention if one of them hit him, he'd be done for. He was still as human as he was last time. He understood better than anyone that he'd break apart like a scarecrow if he got hit. And so to him, this was undoubtedly just as much a strenuous effort as it was a one-sided game whose result was already set in stone.
ほらほらどうしたそんなもん聞かねえのは分かってんだろ
With the first round over, both parties were done testing each other. Just like they were animals belonging on completely different levels of the food chain, so did the way they approach fighting differ. The Impaler, a cruel, bloodthirsty vampire. An atrocious scoundrel clad in the Knight's Blessing in the shape of stakes forming all over his body. With his brutality and complete control of both offense and defense, he had no openings for his opponents to exploit. With decades of fighting experience, Wilhelm was leagues beyond Shido Yusa in every aspect. And in truth, Shido hadn't properly perceived a single one of Wilhelm's attacks from the moment the battle began. Though he'd unleashed countless bloody stakes and supersonic punches, the entire hallway was completely decimated at this point, Shido hadn't seen any of them. And it would have been far-fetched to consider Shido could have predicted Wilhelm's moves, given the difference in their combat experience. So Shido just kept dodging them somehow. He'd given himself to his instincts and, as if having obtained divine foresight, kept performing what should have been a 1 in 1,000, no, a 1 in 10,000 miraculous dodge.
なんかあるだろ考えてきたんだろ用意してきたんだろほら出せよ殺します
And as such, Wilhelm was also drawn to the inexplicable potency he displayed. He was up against a subclass monkey who didn't have enough power to match him on equal terms, and he proved to betray all expectations last time. He simply couldn't help feeling that the brat would find a way to thoroughly entertain him. A game like that was one of a kind. He was the strangest beast he had met in his path of carnage. He might not have possessed the one-eyed Ashen Knight's perverse obsessions, but in this case alone Wilhelm too was most curious to know what the brat's insides looked like. And in truth, Shido never once thought of giving up. It was his mind rather than his body that was in overdrive. Holes littered the building, stakes showered from all angles like a squall. Yet Shido paid no heed to the gradually accumulating cuts over his body and instead calmly thought over the design of the attacks he dodged up to this point. The first thing he verified was that the demons of the Obsidian Round Table excelled in endurance and tolerance for damage. So long as he had to fight the bastards, it was an obvious decision to first figure out a method that actually wound them. Looking toward things in the long run during a situation where a single hit would kill him instantly was insane in and of itself. And to make matters worse, Shido was yet unaware of the fact that his foes had long eliminated all their human weak points. So any onlookers would see Shido's struggle not more than a folly, the cruel despair of being up a river without a paddle. But at the very least, there was no greater opponent than Wilhelm for Shido to study their weaknesses. The Ivory Demon was so interested in the young man that he was willing to play along with him to a certain level. Since he had a tendency to jest and underestimate his opponents, a trait held by many of those with overwhelming power, he was truly ideal for Shido to try all sorts of tricks on. And what was more,
うさんくさいんだよ無敵なんつうのはガキの妄想かっつうの
he couldn't stand the fact that Ren was the only one who received a real trump card in this entire business. Shido continued to dodge past the raining dance of death, muttering juvenile complaints under his breath. All of his attempts to counterattack ended up in utter failure. Shido's complaints about the bastard's fortitude were perfectly valid. His bullets couldn't leave a scratch in his eyes or in eardrums. The abomination didn't even flinch. He may have had a human-shaped body, but he possessed none of the weak points a human should. It didn't appear that modern guns could even irritate the demon of the night. A wolf was no match for a rifle. The strong devoured the weak. Such was the law of the world. And that ridiculously simple fact rendered all of Shido's attempts to fight back completely futile. That was the nature of absolute strength. It allowed for no ifs, no questioning, and no doubts. One could not overturn the perfect laws of the food chain by mere tricks and scientific gadgets. Or at least, it should have been so.
まあそういう玉じゃねえよな
Shido knew that his opponent wasn't the type who sought the sort of uncharming and faultless strength that would render him invincible. Wilhelm would be damned if he had to put up with boring fights and easy victories. All who opposed him were as much as food and prey as they were rivals. He didn't mind some resistance, or rather, he welcomed it with open arms. In short, it was a matter of thrills. One needed challenges and a sense of achievement to truly feel alive, and so Wilhelm lusted for a battlefield where he could rejoice in fulfilling carnage. And that craving was as deep-rooted in the vampire as Shido thought.
どうした悪あがきは決まったか
せかすなってどれにしようか選んでるんだからよ
With that, Shido suddenly turned to the very epicenter of the stake barrage and dashed forward. The two unwavering arrogances clashed. Both of them were certain in their victory. Both of them sought thrills. And with that bizarre twinge of empathy between them, the two finally shifted their battle into a true fight to the death. This is where the scene changes? Yeah, of course it is. Meanwhile, as Shido and Wilhelm's battle waged on, Kay was out in the courtyard trying to stop Kane's rampage. There was little distance between her and the dead berserker. She could close that gap in a beat, but even so...
やめなさいカイ
She cried out to the giant, hoping that her words, her voice, would bring him to a halt. She knew it was a spineless action. She knew it all stemmed from her fear to face reality. Yet Kay could not help herself. At the next moment, her pleas were met with a roar and intense light as if to reject them. The lightning struck Kay, frying her flesh and bones. Her body went flaccid from the electricity coiling around her nerves, to the point she could barely move. The pain was so intense it froze her in place, and yet, at the same time, her heart hurt far more than her body. For she felt that the lightning coursing through her was the cries of his endless grief. Countless thunderclaps ravaged her body in endless succession, prying a cry of pain out from behind her clenched teeth. She felt like she were about to lose consciousness with every single strike, but she kept her eyes on Kane and kept pressing forward. And yet, anxiety still clouded her thoughts. Wouldn't he just run away the moment she drew close enough? Could he even properly recognize her? Even the agony that would have killed 100 men she was currently exposed to is nothing next to those thoughts. The emotion driving her feet was akin to resignation. Yes, this was her punishment. After all, she didn't want to see him like this. Even if he was being controlled and didn't have a scrap of his own will left behind, she still wanted him to stay beautiful as in her memories. She couldn't stand seeing him as a puppet of a witch. How ridiculous. Where did she get off acting like she was virtuous after all the lives she'd reaped so far? It was laughable. And why was it she could put up with it all when Babylon still held the strings? Was she under the impression that it didn't matter if he was being made to kill so long as someone with good conscience was behind it? If that wasn't self-satisfaction, then what was? She was horrible. The worst. The absolute lowest. In her mind, she didn't deny that, but...
お願いもうやめて
She could only keep pleading pathetically. She embraced and clung to him tightly, words her only tool to hopefully soothe him.
私強くなったから少しは前より辛いことを我慢できるようになったからだからお願い今は止まって誰ならいいというわけじゃないけれどこのままならあなたは
Truly become nothing more than a disposable corpse. A puppet soldier controlled by the Queen of Shadows, fated to vanish as a sacrificed pawn, a mere tool. To her, that was beyond.
私は絶対に
A sharp pain ran through her abdomen before she could continue. Oh right, she still has the scorpion thing in her belly. That will mess you up. It felt as if an insect were crawling inside her body and cutting up her innards with its claws.
これは
Rusalka's curse was being invoked. A smirk of the cunning witch disguised in that ridiculous useful form ran through her mind. She said the curse would take effect if Kay betrayed them. Indeed, trying to stop Kane in this situation could count as betraying the Obsidian Round Table. But while Kay understood that, she didn't loosen her grip around him. She couldn't. Otherwise, she would lose sight of the very thing she craved. She would lose the very core of her being that made her try and stop him to begin with. Then she heard the most grating and unpleasant voice she knew. She looked up to find the witch standing above her, looking exactly as she had just pictured her. She stood behind the fence of the school's roof. Smiling, she looked down on Kay in the courtyard as though she had found something truly amusing.
やっぱり裏切ったわねレオン
Rusalka addressed Kay in a cheerful tone, not paying the slightest attention to her pain. Though Kay was no lip reader, she could somehow hear what the witch was saying from this distance. Her tone made it sound as if she'd been sure Kay would betray her.
サラテストラにもだいぶ肩入れしていたみたいだし私をベイのやり方も気に入らなさそうにしてたからいつか裏切るんじゃないかって思ってたのよねまでもその調子じゃこれ以上何もできそうにないわねそこで何もできない自分を呪いながら苦しみもだえて死んじゃいなさいカインなんだったらそこの裏切り者一思いにやっちゃっていいわよ
And with that, Rusalka moved away from the fence. Kay glared up in anger at the woman, no, at her enemy.
裏切り者そう優しいのねマレウスあれだけ侮っていた私のことあなたは一度でも仲間と思ってくれてたなんて光栄ねけれどごめんなさいそんなお情けにも等しい城塞も私はお前に
Even pity. She would not think twice about casting her away. And now she'd use that to prove she belonged to the Obsidian Round Table, that she was just as depraved as the others. Cain was not paying heed to the decay of his body, too busy with his rampage. The woman controlling the corpse would have to be defeated to bring him to a stop. That meant there was but one solution. All of the circumstances were nothing compared to that. She resolved herself, let go of Cain, and then she spoke. Her honor manifested with those words. The ancient sword Hihi Idokane, shining scarlet wrapped in flickering flames like the sun, forged from a legendary vermilion metal described in the Takeuchi documents, on account of the age of the gods. She held up her crude but well-sharpened blade and glared at the witch on the roof that she had to defeat.
誤射裏切り同士口戦場なら何もおかしなことはないでしょうならいいわ教えてあげる誰にも何にも譲れないこんな私にだって逆鱗があるということを
For the witch's actions clashed against the very purpose Kay had decided to take up the sword, a purpose she would do anything for, even if it meant staining her hands in treachery. And so now she would teach the bitch that her prized treasure was not as frail as to give in to some weathered old crone. Kay would show her that she wasn't just going to look the other way and bear being mocked any longer. Rusalka moved away from the fence to the center of the roof. She glanced down and smiled at the lone girl lying unconscious there, her lecherous gaze slithering along her torn clothes like a snake.
かすみ、さあ目覚めなさい。
Rusalka gently stroked the girl's, Kasumi's cheek, her fingers treading carefully as though she was treating a fragile porcelain doll. Perhaps it had tickled as Kasumi trembled slightly. Her consciousness began to merge out of the sea of sleep. She faintly opened her eyes and looked around to get a grasp of what was happening to her. The first thing that came into her eyes was someone wearing a black uniform, Rusalka. Second was the dark sky. Last was the familiar scenery of the school roof. Once she'd acknowledged all that, Kasumi's consciousness finally attuned to reality.
おはよう、かすみ。ルサルカ。どうして？なんで私こんなところで寝てるの？もう夜になってるじゃないの。一体何がどうなってるの？
Also, why are you wearing a Nazi uniform? Startled by the situation, she tried to sit up, but soon realized she couldn't move her body at all. Her body was in perfect condition, she hadn't been drugged, and her muscles didn't feel paralyzed, not even stiff. Her mind was also clear. She felt totally fine, and she couldn't move, as though she'd been bound from hand to foot.
かすみってば本当に騒がしいわね。頭の悪い子犬を見ているようで楽しいわ。
Kasumi gasped quietly, frightened by Rusalka's smile. All of her instincts screamed there was something very wrong about the sight before her.
どうしちゃったのかな。今度は借りてきた猫みたいにおとなしくなっちゃって。
Rusalka couldn't help having her sadistic side stimulated by the sight of the terrified girl.
いい顔をするじゃないの、かすみ。私ね、そういう人の怯えた表情を見るのが大好きなの。だから。何？あなたのその怯えた顔、もっともっと私に見せてちょうだい。
The shadows at Rusalka's feet slowly began to bulge up. They took on a three-dimensional form, looking like slimes out of a video game. The shadows squirmed, filling Kasumi with visceral disgust. They slowly crept towards their paralyzed prey, quivering and wriggling suggestively as they coiled around her limbs. Faced with what felt like an endless colony of giant worms crawling all over her skin, Kasumi broke out into goosebumps and screamed. This is a little bit rapey.
だね。まだ始まったばかりじゃない。
Tentacles tightened themselves around Kasumi even harder on Rusalka's cue. Kasumi's body creaked under the severe tension. Kasumi let out voiceless screams at the stark intensity of the pain rushing through her. Her eyes flooded with tears that cascaded down her cheeks. One of the shadows wrapped itself around Kasumi's neck and strangled her. With her breathing cut off, Kasumi's mouth widened like that of a goldfish begging for food. Kasumi flailed around as she flapped her mouth in an attempt to breathe. Tears, saliva, and mucus sullied her face. But the tentacles showed her no mercy, tightening their grip around her neck with enough force to break it. Still suffocating, Kasumi began to black out. All she could make out in her blurry vision was a lewd and cruel smile on Rusalka's face. Just when the idea that she might die crossed Kasumi's mind, the shadow wrapped around her neck released its grip. Kasumi choked on the sudden rush of free air that came flooding into her lungs.
ごめんね、苦しかった？もうやめて、ルサルカ。だからダメだってば。これからが本番なんだから。大丈夫。今度は優しくしてあげるからね。
Rusalka snapped her fingers, and the shadows began to engulf Kasumi again. Yeah, this is definitely, like, super rapey. Kasumi screamed from the sickening touch of the shadows crawling around her bare skin. It was a sensation like none other she'd ever experienced, and it terrified her to the very core. For it had an otherworldly chill about it. What tormented her was not so much the shadows creeping on her skin as the sensation of them eating into her very core, her soul. The condensed light containing the root of the being known as Kasumi Ayase, her sacred land and the values that ingrained themselves within, were at risk of being veritably violated. Naturally, she couldn't take it. She felt she was going crazy. With her common sense of reality seemingly dimensions apart from what had been happening, there was no way she could retain her senses in this situation. She was just an ordinary girl, yet here she was, being assaulted by phantasmagoric shadows with a very real possibility she might not survive. Though she prayed it was a dream, she couldn't help feeling that the jaws of the monster she woke up in were very real. All she could do was scream. All she could do was lie there as the predator took great delight in toying with her prey.
ひどいこと？一体何のことかしら。私はただあなたと遊んでるだけだし、あなただってとても喜んでるじゃない。
That is not how I would describe this. The girl's comment was uncalled for as far as Rusalka was concerned. It wasn't like she was an angel herself. After all, just a few nights before, it was at that moment that it finally hit Rusalka.
あなた、あの事件のこと覚えてないの？何のこと？
Rusalka looked at Kasumi closely. There were no signs of her playing dumb. Apparently all of her memories of what happened, of the weight of her sin, were completely gone.
あなた、記憶を失ってるんだ。
Now that was interesting. If Rusalka brought the girl's memories back, just how would she react? Would she cry? Scream? Break? Or would she go mad? Just like how Rusalka herself renounced and cursed God in that cold cell, finding respite only in madness. Whatever the case, it would definitely be interesting. Rusalka smirked and spoke up in a sweet voice.
あなたの記憶呼び起こしてあげる。
She walked up to the paralyzed Kasumi and seized the girl's chin with her fingers.
さあ、よーく見て。
Kasumi stared at the image of herself reflected in Rusalka's eyes. What was it that the girl reflected in those blue eyes, Kasumi herself, had once done? Memories forgotten and suppressed slowly bloomed back to life like a blossoming flower. A crimson flower that smelled of blood. Oh, settle down. Sure, you killed a couple people. Who hasn't, really? All the tragedy that happened in that park rushed through her mind, momentarily overtaking all of her senses. Many deaths, the sensation of flesh, the resilience of bone, the warmth of splattered blood. Kasumi screamed at the display of those abominable memories. She tried to move out of an impulse to flee, but it was no use. The curse still left her thoroughly petrified.
どう？真実を知った気分っていうのは。
Kasumi's agony was Rusalka's pleasure. The witch's face warped into a wicked, malevolent smile.
嘘。こんなの嘘。いや、いや、
Kasumi's eyes widened as she let out a piercing shriek. By the time the sound abated, the girl had lost consciousness.
あれれ？かすみ？かすみちゃん？
Rusalka lightly flicked Kasumi's cheek. However, the girl didn't wake up no matter how many times she did so.
あらら、気を失っちゃうなんて、まだまだ人事なのかしらね、この子ったら。
Rusalka's mouth curved like a crescent moon. In other words, she held the potential to join their side of the world.
でもはしたないの。こんな無防備になっちゃ、誘われてると思われちゃっても仕方ないんだからね。
Rusalka licked her lips and took a look inside Kasumi at the form of the soul dwelling within her. Ah, so that was it. Rusalka understood what Kasumi's role was now. She'd been chosen to be the first executioner, and the reason for that wasn't as trite as her mere relationship with the boy. Now it all made sense. With blood of that lineage coursing within her, such an outcome was inevitable. If one merely looked at the results, they'd have to accredit the matter to the impeccable Mercury's design, but it would have been a remiss to undervalue Babylon's cunning, who at the time seemed to have pulled the wool over the eyes of most of the Obsidian Round Table. As a woman herself, Rusalka had to express honest admiration for the potency of that maternal love. Unfortunately, as a witch, she couldn't help rejoicing at the prospect of laying her hands on such a trump card, her feelings of admiration overshadowed by malevolent gratitude. She had another heir to the Devil's Castle in her hands. But before she could devour that sweet soul, the door leading from the roof to the school slammed open. I rammed the iron door open with the force of inertia I'd accumulated dashing up the stairs. And actually, this seems like a pretty good place to close off. I can leave the hot den on Rusalka action for tomorrow, so catch y'all then.